Good morning. This is John Rowell for the Rowell Report. Today is Saturday, August 2nd, 2025, and here's my report for today. I'd like to focus on the topic of helping President Trump get his presidency back on track. Unfortunately, he has been distracted by a lot of foreign policy urgencies, and it's very easy for him to spiral his presidency out of control and derail his domestic agenda by the current crisis that are going on in Ukraine and the Middle East and other parts of the world. Um, I think there's a lot of hope for President Trump to rebuild America, to make America great. But if he spends his presidency focusing on issues that are outside of this country and focusing the nation's resources in that direction, he'll definitely wonder at the end of his presidency where the time went and what happened to his agenda. But anyway, before I start, like to go back to election night, and I remember that Kamala Harris was at Howard University, and she was there to be with her supporters, her alma mater, um, on the night of the election. And despite so many people coming out to accompany her on that election night, despite the cold and the poor weather conditions, she did not go out to thank them for being there and for braving the cold. And I thought that that was the greatest sign that she was not ready to be president of this country, because whether you win or lose, you need to thank your supporters and you need to recognize the contribution of others. So, anyway, that's my comment about that whole situation. But uh, President Trump began with a great amount of expectation. He brought in Doge to try to figure out where all the waste was going, to cut out excess government. He had began begun his presidency by a strong domestic focus, and over time he's starting to get his eyes distracted away towards other things in other countries and other regions of this globe. And I think that's quite unfortunate because there's many urgent things to do in this country. Anyway, I wanted to give some suggestions where President Trump could dedicate the next 3.5 years of his presidency so he can get his domestic agenda back on track. If he wanted to rebuild um, all U.S. interstates from scratch, he could uh, create new roads that are EV friendly and can be adapted for autonomous vehicles. Also, I know the Germans, when they were building the Autobahn, installed steam pipes under the road to keep them drivable during the wintertime. I mean, that's an option, but I'm sure that there are more modern solutions for roads being safer. So there are certainly things that could be done, but also that would be a huge boost to the job market and would provide lots of good paid jobs that would provide training. So that would be a big plus. Plus, he could replace the whole aging Eisenhower interstate road system with a newer roads, and he could call that the Trump interstate road system. Um, Approximately, that would cost about $1 trillion. If we move on to another project he could work on, he could replace the majority of our aging U.S. airports and their air traffic control systems. And this would be another big boost for jobs and for improving our domestic infrastructure. That would cost approximately $1 trillion. Let's say he wanted to increase the number of national parks and connect those parks with the road systems and the airports. That would be approximately $150 billion to double the number of national parks. Now, to connect them to the other road systems, that would be additional cost, but um, that would certainly provide more places for people to go on their weekend without having to drive so far. If President Trump was to build a national metro system, uh, a rail system that would connect cities, similar to what Amtrak attempts to do, but building its own tracks. And so that would be separating the passenger from the cargo rail system. Uh, that would be approximately 1.4 trillion dollars to connect all U.S. cities with a national metro system. That's the approximate cost. And finally, to rebuild our aging uh, cargo train rail system, to rebuild 140,000 miles of rail lines for cargo trains would cost approximately 400 billion. And if you put all those together, you get a total of $4 trillion approximately. And that's a lot less than what we spent on the useless and long winded conflict in Afghanistan, which didn't achieve anything. And um, so, anyway, it, consider this, that it took approximately 60 years to connect Dulles International Airport with downtown DC with the metro rail system using the Silver Line. Um, Baltimore Washington International Airport is still not connected to Washington. If you want to go from Baltimore Washington International Airport to downtown DC, you have to take a shuttle to an Amtrak train and then hope the train comes in a couple of hours. Um, but you can't count on those trains coming at a specific hour. So um, I don't even think that there is a plan to connect Baltimore Washington International Airport with downtown DC. But you would think it would make some sort of sense. Um, but if you were to take a single plan for the whole country, connecting airports, roads, rail system, metro system, and putting it in one package, and putting money behind that, uh, then President Trump could call the whole system the Trump system for the country, and that could be a huge win. He could eliminate what's called the Eisenhower Interstate Road System, um, and he could put his name on that. And instead of sending money overseas for these forever wars and these conflicts which aren't going anywhere, he could restart this big domestic agenda to make this country great again. So I think many people voted for President Trump thinking that we could get our infrastructure going, um, and we could make the American dream possible again. But it doesn't look like it's heading in that direction, unfortunately. I could be wrong, but we'll see in 3.5 years where we're at, what kind of infrastructure projects President Trump was able to start and finish. And my hope is that he starts to ignore the people called the neocons and the globalists who want the United States to be in every country, um, involved in their politics, involved in their economies, and taking America's money and sending it everywhere all over the globe, and focusing it on this country. There's projects that could be done to improve this country, but what we need for this country is a plan. Um, One more fact is that when the Denver International Airport, the new one, was completed, and it's about 30 miles outside of Denver, they had not built a road yet to get to that airport. So, anyway, in these projects, sometimes the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. But if you're going to build an infrastructure and you want to bring the U.S. infrastructure up to par with the most modern countries, um, this is going to take money, it'll take planning, and it'll take a single plan, not, let's build this here and then as an afterthought, let's think about building transportation from this location to that location. So we're doing things hodgepodge, decapitated chicken style, and this is and this is very evident, especially for people who come from other countries and come and see the disjointed infrastructure that we have in this country. Many of our roads are inadequate. If you were to take the train from Washington to New York, there are many spots on the rail line where they have to slow down to 5 or 10 miles an hour because the track is in such poor condition, and you can feel the train sway from one side to the other, and kind of wonder whether the train is just gonna completely fall off the rail or not. But there are severe problems that need to be addressed, and President Trump could address them and get his name on that project, on that infrastructure, and even more, if he could create one plan for the whole country, like President Eisenhower did, and he could stamp his name on it, and we could get our infrastructure up to par with the most modern countries that have invested heavily in their infrastructure, and we could make America great again. But anyway, that's my thoughts on how President Trump can get his presidency back on track. I hope everyone has a beautiful day, and tune in again. There will be more videos coming. And so, anyway, take care. Bye bye.